I like Captain America.
And I like it when he throws his mighty shield.
Once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. You know, Joe, I think that phrase would work well on a T-shirt. Charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. That would be
so sinful.
And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing tonight, Joe?
It's hard to believe I once had a phone attached to the wall, and when it rang, I'd pick it up without knowing who was calling. It's amazing I'm still alive.
Now if the phone rings and I look at it, and it's not one or two or three people, I just don't answer it.
Yeah, I don't know that number.
Well, and then there are times when it's, yeah, I know that number.
I got to tell people how dedicated we are. We are sitting here doing our podcast when we could be down at XL Energy Center enjoying Smackdown Live.
No, you enjoy Smackdown Live when it's on TV.
I don't know. We had fun. Of course, when we went the one time, it was being recorded. So that wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad, but remember that...
Wasn't it? It was ECW, SmackDown, and... I don't know if they did that. What was it? They had a third show that they did.
They did Main Event first. Then they did SmackDown. And then they did ECW. And ECW was live. But that was the last TV taping thing for WWE I ever went to. Because during the commercials, nothing happens.
I don't know. We watched The Undertaker come down and get put under the ring.
Yeah, that was cool, but for the most part, it's like, okay, it's commercial, so you're going to sit there for 7 minutes. They don't even show stuff on the big screens. Yeah, and that was before they actually did the match would take place over the commercial break. But from what I hear, when the match takes place over the commercial break, they usually will go to commercial when they're both outside reeling. So they take a long time to get back in the ring, and then they go into like a headlock. Or, some other rest hold. Whereas when it was Nitro, did you ever go to a live Nitro, Joe?
No, because I was at the comic store. You guys went on your own.
When they would go to commercial, they would actually have the Nitro girls come out, and they would do a dance routine through the whole commercial break. And that's one of the things that would keep the crowd revved up. Because if you watch the old Nitros, when they come back from commercial, sometimes they show the Nitro girls ending their routine, and sometimes they don't. But the crowd is always just fired up, and that was why. That was why they had the Nitro girls. So I won't go to a WWE TV taping. Now, Ring of Honor, you don't even know it's a TV tape. They'll tell you it's a TV taping, but because they're just taking the matches, and the matches are filmed separately, it's like going to a regular wrestling show. They'll take a couple minutes between matches to get everybody out and get everything ready. But it's not like, okay, the match is over. Now we're going to sit. All right, now we're going to show something from backstage. Now the announcers are going to talk, so nothing's happening. All right, now there's a new match. You know what else is going on tonight? Joe's too busy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Usually when you pause, that means I have to pay attention to what you're saying. What? What? Yes. Comic books. Yes. We're talking comic books. Yes.
Yeah, it's 3 days after a Minnesota tradition, I guess. They've been around for at least a year. BlizzardCon.
Yes, the con that made Cory give up comic book cons.
No, that was LionCon.
BlizzardCon started.
Was where my knees got knocked out from under me, and LionsCon is when they put the last nail in the coffin.
See, like I said, that was a gaming con. That wasn't a comic con.
Doesn't matter. It's still at the end of it.
You went outside your realm. You should have stuck in the comic zone instead of go hanging with those gaming perverts.
The gaming perverts were actually nicer to me than the comic perverts.
Your own fault. Oh, yeah,
well,
2 guys are mean to you. Now, the whole comic industry is picking on the Strohmeister. Steve Ditko called. He wants his comic books back.
You can take them out of my cold, dead hands.
No problem. It can be arranged.
If he outlives me, I'll be very sad.
And, of course, the weird thing about the last Wizard World...
Blizzard World.
Well, same thing. They're both doomed. But actually, Blizzard World is probably going to be okay because they learned the one valuable lesson that our good buddy Nick Post told us long time ago. Never, and I mean ever, do a comic show during summer. There's 2 problems you have. First of all, that's when the big boys bounce. And it's almost impossible to get major league guests because everybody, although there's been a backlash, but anybody who can get to San Diego will get to San Diego. And it's like almost every other weekend there's a big con and guests are, if a lot of these guys, they have to work their ass off either before or after to get their books ahead so they can blow off the summer convention season. The second thing is if you happen to have it on a very nice day, you're going to get nobody to go to it. Unless you happen to pull in a name that wouldn't be normally at a Comic-Con. We're talking like a Jim Lee, the Steve Ditko, or, that type of guy that would just draw people in just because of the name. And that's hard to do again at a small one-day show. And that's what hurt Blizzard World last time is it was packed with dealers and guests. There was no customers. And, I went in. You can go back, look up the show. I mean, I had a fine time. And even this time around with Blizzard World, I actually had a time off award from work, which was kind of cool. I didn't know I had. So I burned it off and went to it. And I know there was a criticism online where somebody didn't like Blizzard World. And they were complaining that, it was so small, they were giving away crappy comics, there was nobody there. And I'm like, I don't know what the experience was this guy had, but I gotta tell you, mine was exactly opposite. I thought it was a fabulous show. So much so that I believe they're actually going to do another one. I think they said they're going to do it in September sometime, so I'm sure we'll hear about that. Also, I got an exclusive to drop for you. Now, our good show put on by the MCBA, the MSP Comic-Con 2017 is going to be May 20th and 21st, 2017 at the Minnesota State Fair Grandstand. Advanced tickets are on sale now, and their guest list is shaping up at www.mcbacomiccons.com. But I also found out that FallCon will be October 7th, and I don't believe they've actually spread that around too much.
We've got a scoop.
Yes, we scooped-de-dooped.
And how did you find that out?
Actually, because I work with their Facebook thing, somebody sent a question in, and they said, yep, we finally got a date for that. So I eavesdropped, just like all good Americans should. So, but anyways, back to Blizzard World. It was last Saturday. Weather was fine. We did not get the big-ass blizzard we were worried about. They spent all week long, oh, my God, there's a blizzard coming. Snow's coming. This is going to be balls deep, chest deep. Well, the funny thing was is it went south of the Twin Cities. So you tell Red Wings, what, about 30, 40 miles away?
Yeah.
They got a foot of snow. Go a little bit farther south, they got 18 inches of snow. We in the Twin Cities got nothing.
I got to work from home anyway.
Yeah, a lot of places they canceled. They were worked out. They were ready to go. I gotta say, I was a little bit disappointed because I was looking for the aforementioned, balls deep, chest deep snow. I know when I woke up, Holly was like, "Oh, it didn't even snow," because she wanted a snow day. But so and I got 4-wheel drive too. I figured I'd do one of two things. I'd either call in, broke, or I'd just go to work, and then I would end up watching everybody as they can't fly anywhere. Flights are canceled. And the best part is that usually means mandatory overtime, but because of my aforementioned back injury, I'm not allowed to do overtime. So I would have to go home. 10 o'clock sharp. Goodbye. I know you got 25 flights waiting to fly, but, rules are rules. I got to go.
Wait. Hold on. No overtime.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like?
I don't know, because usually there's not a lot of overtime. Federal government doesn't want to give out overtime just about as much as your basic industries, So, and they will use it. I mean, especially like when they know like a big crowd's coming, or they don't want to have a repeat of last summer where everybody was mad at TSA because they cut us back so far and flights went up so much that we didn't have enough people even man a checkpoint. But that wasn't our fault. No, never our fault. So no overtime for me, but I had already taken Saturday off, so I figured, what the heck, let's go to BlizzardCon.
Dun, da, da.
Dun, dun, dun. I had fun. I mean, it was $4 to get in. They let people in free with admission. I mentioned the comics earlier. They had the 25-cent, I think it was Walking Dead. And one of those not a sampler, but like whatever the current issue was. And then
the 25-cent issue.
Yeah, and then they had a Civil War variant, which is fine. I've read Civil War, so it's not a big deal. But hey, free is free. I don't complain about that. Somebody left out a bunch of free books anyway, so I picked up a couple from A+ Comics, Hot and Cold Heroes. And the only reason I picked it up is because it had Herbie on it.
Ooh.
So I haven't even looked at them. I figured I could have been greedy and just grabbed them all, but, I'm trying to get rid of comics, not trying to buy more. The show wasn't full. They had a back wall that was almost vacant. They spaced everything very liberally. So, again, there are people there that weren't there that I would have expected. I think a lot of people maybe foolishly just figured, well, since the last con sucked, this one will suck. Well, I didn't think it did. I thought it was fairly crowded. I ran into a number of people, from the comic store, from the regular cons, things like that. Matter of fact, Mr. Strode, I need to get some more of our business cards into my hand, because I actually got a chance to talk with a couple of the creators that were there, and some of them I talked about, the podcast that we do, and I bought their book, and I said I'll probably review it on our podcast. I don't have them. I'm not going to have them ready to review this one, but I'll have them for next show. But I will give a shout out. The first one I picked up was The Adventures of Merrimack by Leo Winstead. And that looked pretty cool. Another gent I ran into, I believe it's Chance Wyatt, and he had 3 books, 4 actually, in a new graphic novel. I picked 2, one called Moving Bodies, one called Blue Lane Chronicles. And then there was a gal that I wanted to talk with, but she had people almost like one at a time coming up to talk to her, so I managed to buy her 4 books. Clara Meath, and she had 4 comics, The Throwaways, The Lowermost, and Swamp Lights. And the art looks really nice, and like I said, I'm going to review these a little bit more after I read them next week. So, and we'll send them a quick email and say, hey, we saw you, we liked it. I didn't get a chance to give Clara our business card, but the other 2 guys I gave the business card to and just, talked about what we do. And so we're going to review you for free, because that's the type of guys we are.
Wait, there are people who charge for reviews?
Well, usually they make you buy your stuff, and I don't mind buying this stuff. But, if you got something you want to review, we'll have information on it a little bit later.
Hold on. Let me write that down. Start charging comic creators to review their
Yep.
work.
Yep. See how far that goes.
There. Hey, we got to start turning some profit here.
Yeah, I know. You've long since spent that $20 in your pocket.
Damn right, I spent it on pancakes today.
All right, I've had enough of your pancake talk. Cory, it's time to ask the Strode.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Cory, tell me about Weatherbird shoes.
I have heard of Red Wing shoes, but I've
No,
never heard of
not the same, not the same.
Shoes.
Well, you
I've never
probably wouldn't, but from a gent down in Hopkins, Ultimate Collectibles, 908 Main Street, he was at the con. Speaking of which, Cory, next time we'll talk about it in Geeking, but we're going to have a geek trip down to these guys. Because they got sports cards, sports memorabilia, non-sports cards, gaming, comics, toys, books, records, music. Sounds like it might be kind of fun to visit. And it's in your neck of the woods.
And shoes.
Weatherbird Shoes was a freebie comic given away in the 50s. And what they did is they took coverless comics, put a Weatherbird cover around it, and gave them away. Just like Redbird Shoes, just like March of Comics. And the guy from Ultimate Collectibles actually had 4 copies there. And I looked at him because I said, I've never seen these before. We've talked about them doing it before. There was, I can't remember, Play World and another place that would like package a bunch of thick comics together. I have a copy on eBay's of All Good Comics, where they took a thick stack of comics and put them together. And these are obviously comics that had been returned. They took the covers off and they just did something with it. This is another case of that, where they wrapped around their little thing. And you're talking, it could be things like Sad Sack. That seemed to be the big one. There were Little Loda. Little Loda, thank you. Highwayman. There was
all the kids at Harvey's at Harvey's seemed to have some sort of mental illness. Like a Little Dot was obsessed with dots. Little Lotta was.
We don't talk about Casper or anything like that.
Casper was dead.
Actually, he had a couple that were DC bound.
Hot Stuff was a devil,
which was interesting because they had like a Superman and a Superboy. So if you ever run across that, you can go to the eBays and take a look at it. But Weatherbird Shoes giveaway in the 50s, and then it's just a comic. They another recycling comic thing, something I never knew about. So I actually learned a little something going to this here con. That's one thing about going to these cons, is that I focus right away on things I've never seen before or something that's unusual. Sometimes it's a variant cover. From Comicology, I was able to pick up WWE Now and Forever #1. Apparently they're doing like everybody else. They have 5 billion different variants. And this one was the Undertaker in the classic WWF mode. They got the old the really old WWF logo, like around Hulk Hogan. And they had a 1 for 30 variant, and after thinking about it, I picked it up. I even tempted the old Strode man. I gave him a call, and I said, Cory, there were the same place. Comicology was half pricing a bunch of Omnibus. And I got here sitting in this box, 3 for Mr. Strode, Uncanny Avengers, Fantastic Four Volume 3, and the one I looked at but didn't buy, X-Men Avengers Onslaught.
Well, now you can read it.
Maybe. I still got your Monsters of Evil hardcover downstairs. I got it. Besides, I picked up 2 myself. I picked up Werewolf by Night, and then Guardians of the Galaxy solo mission, which has all their appearances up until they were together as Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I have ordered 10 omnibuses in the last month. Because Marvel did a big thing where they were dumping omnibuses on the market. It's For some reason, their CEO thinks that if you keep things in storage, that's terrible. Instead, sell them out at 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
So yesterday when I got home, I had the Marvel 75th Anniversary book. I had the Matt Fraction Fantastic Four and the Mark Miller Ultimate Avengers. I have also ordered the Guardians of the Galaxy Solo. All of those were $30 or less.
Where'd you get them?
Amazon.
Woohoo!
And then there are the 3 that I ordered for last month from DCB Service. They sell them at half price, and then the 3 for you. And that's 10 omnibuses in a week and a half.
Omnibuy.
Joe, I think I have a problem.
I don't think it's a problem.
I think it's cool that they're dumping these on the market, and you're going to see them at conventions. A lot of people are not putting them online, but I saw that New England Comics, who's probably best known for being the owners of the character The Tick, they have been at conventions, and there are people talking about how they're selling them at $30 and $40 each and putting pictures up on Facebook. So a lot of these omnibuses are going to get snapped up by the market. The other thing is, if you look at the omnibuses, even the ones that are discounted out, within a couple years, they're going for big bucks. I remember one of the ones I have is one of the early ones that were discounted out, and that's Tomb of Dracula Volume 2. And I found it at a convention for $30. Snap that baby up. You go onto Amazon now, and people are selling it for $300 and $400. Why? It's out of print. It's been out of print for years. These are actual rare items because it's rare that they print more than 1,000. Usually the orders come in at about 500 to 600, and then they print a couple hundred on top of that for spoilage and to keep so that they can sell, and then eventually they're told to dump them. And then you look online, and they are going for crazy money.
Yep.
So, Joe, Blizzard World, sounds like shop-wise it was kind of half full.
Yep.
What were the dealers saying about that?
I didn't really stay around long enough to talk much to the dealers. I mean, I've talked to a few. Judging by the people at the tables, I think they must have had a pretty decent time. I know Comic College did. I dropped about $300 buying our Omnibuy. One thing that I thought was interesting, we've talked about the Nostalgia Zone in the past.
Yeah.
We got to go there again. Chris Budell was doing a brilliant thing. He had a card. He was handing it out to everybody. It was for free, $10 worth of merchandise. You didn't have to buy anything. Just go in and get $10 worth of merchandise. And as I was leaving, I was thinking, I probably shouldn't. I've spent a lot already. Oh, what the hell, let's go. He was less than a mile away from where the Blizzard World was held. And so I went down there. A little tougher to spot because they don't have a big neon sign, but parking was fine. I went in, and holy cow, they were top to bottom, left to right, packed.
Reading stuff is out of sight.
There was no way to not read stuff. I mean, basically, as you're looking through stuff, people are in a good mood. They just kind of move back and forth so you can get around. I went through a lot of boxes. I saw a lot of things I'd never seen before. I actually sent a picture to Cory because they had a bunch of EC comic set reprints that I know I don't know if you have them all, if there were a few you were looking for.
I do. I have all of them.
So if you're looking for them, give these guys a call. Nostalgia Zone at nostalgiazone.com. It's in 3535 East Lake Street in Minneapolis. What a brilliant idea they did. As you got in there, I picked up 3 graphic novels. They were selling them for $10 a piece. A lot of people just came in, looked around, handed them the card, took a graphic novel. I picked up 3. I barely got through looking at them. They got the comics on the wall. They got toys. They got just tons and tons of stuff. They had March of Comics. They had the old DC Digest. I got to get my list together because there's no way to buy I don't want to buy duplicates, but boy, you hate to go back there and find out what you wanted is gone. So yeah, definitely. If you haven't been to the Nostalgia Zone, definitely check it out. Again, a road trip Cory and I will be taking, hopefully in the near future.
I have a question about the Nostalgia
Sure.
Zone. Now, the College of Comic Book Knowledge and Nostalgia Zone, were they always separate shops and then they merged together and then they broke apart?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Because I know there was the College of Comic Book Knowledge, and then at one point Nostalgia Zone was part of it. And Chris Budell owned the College of Comic Book Knowledge because he lived in the house that it was attached to. And then I knew for a while Joel Thingvall was involved with Nostalgia Zone, and I don't know if he's still involved with it or not.
No, I don't think so. Because he's acting in such fine films as Insecula.
Yes.
Which I'd love to find, but I guess the guy who owns the rights for it withdrew it or whatever.
And he played Tor Johnson in a movie.
Tor.
But now, I know the Source at every convention hands out 20% off coupons. If you go to the store that day, you get 20% off everything you purchase. Did you ever do anything like that? Did you ever hand out coupons or stuff? Because I know when the convention would happen, you would be at the convention, and usually somebody who didn't know anything about comics and didn't care would be watching the shop, and that would be your lovely bride.
Or sometimes my mom. And when Pat was still with me, he would do his own thing. You know, sometimes I don't know who he had from him. There's a couple of solo Joes out there where we talk about it. Go check it out. Wait, we're good at cross promoting, aren't we?
Yeah, but did you ever hand out coupons or anything like that?
I always did, but I found it was real hard to get someone to come to my store. It depends on the convention. When they used to be at the Maplewood Community Center, which was, again, a mile north of me, I would stand by the door and pass out flyers to everybody, usually with a gimmick. One year it was like, come down to see who wins it's like what would you call it? Like a number. There'd be like, if you came in and your ticket matched the numbers that we had already pre-drawn, you'd win the prize. Either way, you get $1 off or 10% off or something. The best one we ever did was the Triangle of Terror between my shop, Comic Archives, and Twin City Comics. And it was an actual scratch-off thing. Like you had the little gold stuff and you scratched off. 3 prizes worth $500 a piece from each store. I gave away a year's worth of comics up to $500. One person had a $500 gift certificate and somebody else had like a $500 gift pack. And then things would run anywhere from like $1 off a new comic to 50% off your purchase to free T-shirts to whatever. And we did, I don't know how many we did, but we made sure there was one in each bag at one of the FallCon shows. Again, at that time, that was the big 2-day one that the MCBA did. And then we had, I had a lot of people come in. The guy who actually won the $500 from me, I think, basically bought comics for maybe 4 months and then disappeared and never really took the rest of it up. But that was probably the best result. Usually if I put something in the flyer, and I put things in almost every single flyer, every single grab bag, every single con, and look at it, eBay's humming away, woohoo! I didn't really get much of a response. I mean, my regular people would bring in coupons, which is fine, but I never really had somebody come across town and visit me just to do it. So, again, I did it just because of awareness factor, but it wasn't really.
It didn't pay off.
Not really. Other than the fact your name is out there, and you notice that too. Even now, the MCBA's grab bag doesn't really have a lot of retailer goodies in it because they just don't. they don't do it. I think social media has really taken that over. Plus the fact that not everybody is going to be able to get a hold of a grab bag because they're always limited for the, whatever the first, 500 on Saturday, 250 on Sunday, like coming up for the MSP Comic-Con. The best one, though, like I said, when they were just a mile up the road, it'd be like, I didn't even get a table at the con. I just basically sat at the front door. I monitored, hand stamps, and I made sure everybody had a flyer.
There you go. Here's your flyer.
Yeah. And I was pretty tough about it, too. I mean, I made sure everybody had a flyer. I know when I'd ask, like, somebody, would you do this for me? They'd be kind of like, whatever. No. See, this was my sale. And judging by the books, it was very successful because, I mean, I did as well or almost better from having a con than I did actually going to the con. Matter of fact, there was the first show they had there, I couldn't find anybody to watch the shop. So what I did is I laid out on my table, hey, I can't make it to the show, but I'm a mile south. Bring this flyer in and get 50% off back issues, blah, blah, blah. And that worked out pretty well.
Well, I'm glad it worked out.
You should be.
Now, there was people were kind of pissy toward Marvel at another show.
Again?
Yep. This is one of the retailer conferences called ComicsPro. And what it is, ComicsPro is one of those things where ComicsPro is a group of retailers that have gotten together to kind of have some muscle. And there have been a few of these, and they never really seem to take off, and I think a lot of that is because a lot of comic shops are one-man organizations. And if you've got a lot of one-man organizations, you don't get a lot of people who want to work together. Matter of fact, the Twin Cities is kind of weird in that when I first got here, comic shops were all in deadly competition. To the point where if somebody who worked at a comic shop went to another comic shop, you would start to hear these rumblings of, they're sending spies. And I remember Hot Comics St. Paul even had that, where there were people, and I don't remember if you were involved in it or if it was just others. These people are spying on Hot Comics Edina to get information for Hot Comics St. Paul and back and forth. But one of the things that Nick did that we kind of started with the convention, and he was really good because he was, kind of the 800-pound gorilla at the source. He was like, no, we're all working together.
Yeah, I remember what you were talking about.
All the shops are working together.
Because there were times, Nick would always praise me because he said, I always see your customers there. You always push this con hard. And I was kind of practical about it. I said, there's no way I can carry every single thing that my customers will possibly want, especially in back issues. Yep. So to me, it was a fun thing to do. Whereas other guys would take the flyers, they'd throw them away. Because some retailers would say, laugh, I didn't see a single one of my customers here. We also had a problem with the Shinders because for the longest time, Shinders wanted nothing to do with the con. And if
they didn't want their customers to know that there were other shops.
But towards the end,
I worked at Shinders.
Towards the end,
they didn't want.
Somehow Nick broke that out because then they would show up and they would have flyers. I also think Nick got around that, too, because he'd always start running ads in Wizard. So that means every single kid who bought a Wizard comic from Shinders, or the magazine, would be reading about our con.
Would you like to know how that broke?
Yes, I would.
Because I was involved in the breaking.
Ooh, you were breakable.
Yes, more behind-the-scenes stuff.
Breakable.
I had a lot to do with this convention. I have a lot of convention stories.
Woo-hoo.
When Joel Shinder finally was able to sell Shinders, he sold it to a relative. Now, when I started at Shinders, they were trying to sell the chain. Because Joel didn't want to run it, but he kind of was forced into it. And I don't know the details behind that. I just know that every so often he would say something like, this isn't what I wanted out of my life. But anytime they would start to look towards selling it, and they ran ads in like Variety and all these other industry publications, people would come in and they would look at the product mix and go, Absolutely not.
And we're talking
Because
porn and baseball cards.
porn, baseball cards, comic books, magazines, books. So it was in the front of the store you got the little kids, and in the back of the store you got the businessmen in suits. I never saw any of the old, what they call the raincoat crowd, the perverts who,
I don't think they went to Shinders. I mean, we talk about porn at Shinders, but they were probably the most responsible vendors in terms of carrying a questionable product, even though it is constitutionally protected. They didn't have, like you said, the raincoat crowd. There wasn't scum or crazy people hanging around out front. They were respectable. And I've talked in times before where, Mars would astonish me or because of they didn't realize, you go through those wooden doors in the back and that's the porn section.
That's what's back there.
Yeah. Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad. It just is what it is.
And one of the things that I did at my store, I actually got these great big bags, because you wouldn't want to have little bags for this. We had these great big bags that people could put the porn in to bring it up to the front counter so they're not carrying, Pregnant Mama's magazine up to the front of the store where all the kids see it. And then I guess years later they were doing that in all the stores. But when Joel sold it, he sold it to a relative, and the relative didn't know the business that well. But it was as the internet was starting to gain steam, high-speed internet was coming, and the porn sales were dropping. And I knew a couple people who worked at Shinders who were like, they're looking for ways to get money. They're trying to figure out how to get money and how to get more people in the store. And I said, Joel, for years, Joel and Steve Kupitz, both for years, they didn't want anything to do with conventions because they didn't want Shinders customers to know, what? Shinders should just bring all that stuff from the basement, mark it up, put it on sale. It'll sell there. And I know that the next year they had a couple tables, but the year that they made the most money, and they worked it out with Nick, they were still in the Education building. The convention was, the 2-day. And across the street was another building. Shinders rented that building and filled it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the amount of people who came through I think that was the last year in the Education building. They then moved to the grandstand. But that was the year where, the number of people just took a huge jump up, because all of a sudden Shinders was pushing it to all these people and saying, we're going to have stuff on discount, we're going to be blowing out poker sets, we're going to be blowing out baseball cards, we're going to be blowing out this. So that was what was going on behind the scenes to kind of break the Shinders boycott. But now here in the Twin Cities, you don't hear a lot of, there are still a couple of dealers who have that old mentality of, all the other shops are terrible, mine's great. But it seems like all the shops in the Twin Cities really cooperate. And they work together, and they understand that, we don't all have the same clientele. We are different geographically. Nobody who lives in Minnetonka is going to drive all the way over to St. Paul just to pick up their comics on a Wednesday night. No, they're going to go to a shop near them, because you don't want to have to drive an hour to get your comics.
And there's always exceptions, and that's usually because you get that personal attention. I mean, I had some guys come down from Duluth. Usually I mail them stuff. I had one guy, and I know his first name was Joe. I don't remember what his last name. But he would come all the way over from, St. Michael's, which is like almost kitty corner across the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
So it is possible that you would have these guys make that extra effort to do that if you were offering a service they liked.
Now, going back to what we were started on, at ComicsPro, there were a lot of people who were talking about how comic book retailers are having trouble. There was a slump toward the end of the year last year, which is weird when you look at the actual numbers, because the January numbers came out, and they're up over last year, both in dollars and number of product. So I'm really wondering what the hell this so-called slump is. But anyway, at the show, Marvel was blaming DC, saying that DC's move to $2.99 across their line has taken money off the table. And the example they used was Batman number 48 cost a retailer $2, and they sold it for $4. So if they order 20 of them and they sell 16, it costs $40. They get $66, so they get $26 in profit. Now, Batman 16, which is $2.99, costs them $1.50. Cover price is $2.99. You order 20 and sell 16, you're only bringing in $30. The cost is $30. You're only bringing in $48, so there's only $12 in profit. Ooh, but wait, it's twice monthly. $24 in profit. That's still $2 less monthly profit on DC's best-selling book when it's $3.99. So you're selling twice as many books and not making as much profit. And Joe, you talk about it a lot. With Sears, it was the refrigerator effect. Yeah, it's good to sell, 5 hammers, but you'd rather sell a refrigerator. So as a retailer, you've talked in the past where you didn't pay a lot of attention to cover price. You paid more attention to demand. But one of the things that Marvel has always said is whenever they put out a lower price book, it's not ordered as well. Fans look at it as cheap, and it doesn't make as much profit per square inch. Do you think Marvel has a leg to stand on with this? Put your retailer hat on, not your family
No,
hat.
I think it's a conundrum because, first of all, you're not going to... When Marvel did, I'll take their 99-cent books they did. The only one of any note was Untold Tales of Spider-Man because Kurt Busiek was on it.
And he was red hot after Marvel.
But the problem is you can't get anybody to want to work that because the residuals would be so low. You've got, again, that's the only name I know. I have no idea what the other titles were. I have no idea who the artists were or what they did. So I think, and you even talked about it like with Next Wave. Next Wave was an absolutely wonderful book that you and I enjoyed thoroughly, but it did not make enough money for the creative team to stay on, at least not at the rates they were paid. So you have kind of to me, it's like a chicken egg argument. Unless you can get a big name caliber artist and writer on a cheap book, there's no real reason to do it. And it's almost like Marvel does the opposite of DC, whereas DC takes their lesser characters and puts them in a $3.99 book, and Marvel used to do it. For a while,
the books that sold
it's like for a while it was Spider-Man, Avengers, X-Men. They were like a little bit cheaper than all of a sudden they're pulling Joe Schmo out of nowhere. Let's call it A Man Named Joe. I think they got the copyright on that one. And I would always argue, what should be the other way around? If you want me to try to push this book onto somebody, you should give me a cheaper price. And, of course, the only time they did that was when they were trying to relaunch the Malibu Ultraverse that they had bought. And they put them all at $1.50, and nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
Again.
And they had big names. Let's not forget when, what was the Ultraverse's superhero team?
Ultraforce.
That was written by Warren Ellis and drawn by George Perez. And it didn't sell. Granted, Warren Ellis wasn't a big name yet, but George Perez was. Here's George Perez back at Marvel doing a superhero team, and no one cared.
Yeah. Again, you need a combined universe there. You need to have a combined, good writer, good artist, and a character they care about. And, it's probably just, it's too much to, again, Marvel gambles as much as we do when they decide, you know what, let's take this character and make a book. And we've talked in shows past, all the books, if you were to read them linearly from, the first Marvel up to date, they all kind of flow from each other, but they don't last. Every so often you get an anomaly, like Red Wolf came out of nowhere. Wasn't tied to a miniseries. It wasn't tied to an event. But you always have these books come out of events, and they never last. Or like in case of Avengers, they just cut it off now. Instead of one Avengers, let's do 25 of them. Or the X-Men effect, It was a big deal when you and I were growing up. Oh my gosh, they're doing a second Spider-Man comic. Here comes a second X-Men book. Now it's kind of a ho-hum, they're doing another X-Men book.
Yeah.
But again, you're taking it away. I think you said it earlier. It's almost like they're throwing crap on the wall to see what sticks. And if it sticks, just roll with it. I don't think I necessarily buy the argument that, you know what, but DC's giving money away. Well, maybe. But at the time, the last couple bumps that they've had, their Rebirth, gotten big numbers, but both times the numbers dropped back to what they were before the event. Marvel's got the same problem. They got big numbers for the event, and then they go back to where they were.
And another issue that DC is having, the first 3 or 4, or I forget how many issues were returnable. Well, they didn't sell as well as they thought they would, so DC's taken a lot of returns. Retailers are ripping the covers off a lot of comics, so there's a lot of free comics being shipped to retailers right now.
Well, I even was reading something off of, I think it was off of Bleeding Cool, where a retailer was talking about they don't like that because it takes, at least this particular retailer said they were told they don't want to get in on the overship program because it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort to return things. Money that they just don't have, time that they just don't have, they don't have the resources to do it. Diamond accidentally put them on the overship list, and now it takes them forever to get off it. And again, this was an article from like probably 2 years ago, so again, I have no idea if they actually ever did get off it. On the other hand, I didn't mind overships because most of the time when I had the big shop, overships were just starting to come in vogue. I mean, Wizard was probably the most active because it would be like, okay, I could order 25 Wizard. They would send me 25. More than likely, I would sell them. But the one thing I never did, I never upped my order to 50. And that's probably what drove them crazy. It was like, nobody's upping their orders, but no overships are coming back. On the other hand, if I got an overship of a couple books I'd never try, fine, I'll put them out. They sell great. If they don't sell, I didn't mind sending them back. Even as a small shop, I didn't mind the overships, although there were some I didn't do because they were just books I knew I wouldn't sell. And I had, when I had the big store, I had, a wall about 80 feet long full of comics, 10 feet high. The little shop, I had maybe 100th of that. And, you could send me the overships and stuff, but 9 times out of 10, I'd end up sending them back. So in and of themselves, I guess I don't mind. But it does kind of skew a little bit your ordering. Like I said, for Wizard, why should I commit more than 25 when I know they're going to send me 25, and if I don't sell it, I can send them back?
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk among indie creators about getting their own distribution system. And I'm even reading some now where it's like, we got to get onto newsstands.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there aren't any newsstands. You go to the grocery store, you're not going to see a bunch of comics. You go to the Walmart, there aren't going to be comics. You go to Target, there aren't going to be comics. You go to these stores, there aren't going to be comics. And if there are, they aren't selling. magazines don't sell anymore. That's why more and more magazines are pushing, hey, if you subscribe, you can also get it digitally.
Yeah, and Marvel does that too. They got that little code thing in the back.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the, returnability is how we're going to get people. This is how we're going to get people. No, I hate to say it, but Marvel has the right idea. And a lot of comic fans are pissing and moaning over it. Why is there this stupid Moon Girl book? Why is there a black girl as Iron Man? Because you're reaching into new markets. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur only sells, 15 to 17,000 in comic shops. But it's one of Scholastic Books' biggest sellers. So, hey, I wonder if we do an Iron Man, here's 5 or 6 books that we can sell through Scholastic featuring Iron Man, who's, teenage girl. Champions is not just a great book by Mark Waid, but I bet you dollars to donuts that's going to sell well in schools, and it's going to do well in libraries. They're looking for new markets because there aren't a lot of new comic shops. I would say for every new comic shop that opens, 2 have closed. And a lot of your original retailers, the guys who opened up their shop in the 80s, those shops are hitting 25, 30, 35 years. So the owners are getting into their 50s and getting into their 60s. And you get tired. You ran your shop for almost about 10 years.
Yeah.
And by the end, you were exhausted.
Yeah, it was just time to move on, I guess.
And, you want to talk Groundhog Day. One of the things that people talk about when they get burned out on their career is because I wake up, take the shower, I have the same drive, I go in and I do the same thing all day, and then I go home, and it's the same thing, and every day is the same. That's kind of when you know you're burned out on your job. Well, in a comic shop, okay, I got to do the order comes in here, on Wednesday we do this.
Yeah.
And if you're not still super excited about the product, eventually you're going to become comic shop guy on The Simpsons, where it's, here comes the crap. I remember one of the shop owners I visited in the 80s. There was a song by REO Speedwagon, Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore. And he would go, I can't read the X-Men anymore. I've forgotten what I ever read them for. And that was in the 80s. So I think that's one of the reasons why the mail order places like DCB Service do real well, because they've got it down to a science. They've got a retail shop, but they treat it like they're Amazon.
So do you think that DC should bump their books to $3.99?
I think they're going to anyway.
So by this time next year, this podcast will be moot.
Well, they've already got some of the books. All of the monthly books are going to $3.99. The bi-weekly books, the ones that come out every 2 weeks, those are going to continue to be $2.99. But all the monthly books are $3.99 now. And I just think they didn't get enough of a sales bump to keep the $2.99 cost being profitable enough. Because, like Marvel talks about, talent costs money. Talent will drive a book's sales, and talent costs money. Bendis talked about it when the books went to $3.99. He said, look, you want the top names on the Avengers? You want the top artists on the Avengers? They're going to get top dollar. And if they're going to get top dollar, those books have to make more money, because we got to pay for the creators. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do think when books hit $4.99 and $5.99, you're going to look at a vastly different market, because you're looking at a very different market with comics at $3.99 than when they were at $2.99. The person who used to subscribe to 30 books is now only subscribing to 20. They're getting pickier. That's why comics now have more of a long tail. It's not like everybody buys the X-Men and everybody buys the Avengers and everybody buys Spider-Man and then they split up for the indies and the smaller books. They just don't buy those. They just buy the indies they want to buy. That's why 15 years ago, your number 300 book sold 499 copies, and now it sells 5,000 copies. You know who else sells a lot of copies, Joe?
Wait a minute. I know this. Hang on a second. I'm going back. Download last week's podcast. Oh, wicked. And then, these guys are sponsors.
That's right. Here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network, we have ads, and our first sponsor is me. That's right. You're charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. I have my first book out with Dangerous Dan Moore. It's the first 100 strips of our online web strip, Worldwide News, the story of the lowest rated cable news network. And you can get yourself a copy with commentary, with all sorts of extras, with signatures and everything. Just email Dan over at lordshadowflame@gmail.com. Our top sponsor, who's been with us since day one, is DreamHost. DreamHost.com. You need yourself a website, and DreamHost.com is the #1 web host in the whole known universe. Just head over to DreamHost.com, put in the code KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z, get $20 off your first year. How can you beat that? Our other sponsor is Graze, GRAZE.com. Healthy snacks for a healthy lifestyle. Just head over to Gray's, put in the code CORYS 3R5P. Your first and fifth box are free. You can get them weekly. You can get them bi-weekly. You can get them monthly. You can just order a whole bunch of them. It's great stuff to keep you away from the vending machine at work. Now, if you would like to leave a comment for any of the podcasts that we do, we'd love those. Go ahead and email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, or you can call 952-856-0519. Operators are standing by. Okay, it's just a place that we'll record your calls, but we'll play them on the air. We'll answer your questions. We love getting feedback. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. Suggest a topic. Be a guest. Send us your stuff. SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. If you would like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose radio shows, you can. Just email us at SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. Subject advertising. Thanks. And after we do the sponsors, we ask Joe the same question every week. Joe, were you ever going to give up on that long-running joke? No. We asked Joe what's going on the eBays.
Time for another Ask the Strode.
Is this about when I'm drinking?
Well, no, although maybe we'll...
Because you asked earlier today what I was drinking, and the answer was bourbon.
Yes, sweet bourbon.
I have
brownest of the... That's because gin makes you mean. No crickets? No.
I'm just leaving that one
there. I expected a bush on that one. Please laugh.
I'm just leaving that alone. Ask the Strode.
Ask the Strode. Cory, tell me about Captain Strong. Uh-oh. Have I stumped him?
You may have stumped me.
Okay. I'll give...
It rings a bell.
I'll give you a hint which will ring that bell. He fights Superman.
Oh, he was the knockoff of Popeye.
Yeah, I made a bad mistake.
Which is one of the weirdest things. Superman had some weird, messed up villains in the 70s. There was that, and then who was the guy who dressed like Sean Connery in Zardoz?
Oh, I know. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember.
Yeah, the balding guy with the mustache wearing a male bikini. But the Captain Strong was kind of a superhero knockoff version of Popeye. And it's one of those things that actually kept me from reading DC Comics, because every so often I go, wonder if these DC books are any good. And then I'd see a cover like that, and I go, yeah, I'm thinking no. I'll deal with the Hypno Hustler. I'll put up with Razorback. But I'm not reading Superman fighting Popeye.
And he did it several times. I actually put a couple copies online that I had Action Comics 421 and a more recent 566, more recent being 1985 for us old fogies. And I guess he's actually fought him a couple times before that. So when you go see that and you say, who the hell is this Captain Strong? You know, it's their riff of Popeye.
Now, you know who does a better version of Popeye?
Who's that?
Our pals over at Russell Crap Radio. One of their characters is Gay Popeye. Now, Gay Popeye only really has one line. I will do an imitation. Well, blow me. Down. Thank you. Good afternoon.
That was terrible. Terrible. I advise you go to WrestleCrap and find the real thing.
Yes.
I did mention earlier, you know, I went to that there Blizzard World. I did buy a bunch of stuff. I did put it up on the eBay, so your chance to check it out.
It just went through your hands.
It did, because there's a lot of things I find. One of them was Spooky, the Warren magazine, or fanzine, I should say.
Oh yeah, they're fanzine.
Yeah, and this one that I found has an exclusive interview with Neil Adams. Cory, have you ever heard of Unsupervised Existence?
I remember that was a little. It wasn't a mini comic, but it was a real small press book.
Yeah, it once came from Ripoff Press. Fangraphics did it. It was done by Terry Laban. Found a couple copies of that were kind of fun to read. But most of the stuff, like I said, I just found when I go through some of the stuff, like I said, if I can find something and I can flip it on eBay right away, so be it. Some things I just bought to buy, to read, like I read the interview in Spooky, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with it. It's your chance to win. And, of course, if you do find anything you're interested in, be it, well, let's take a look at the last 5 things that sold. Okay, I sold a RoboCop versus Terminator 1 through 4. That's the one we talked about earlier, the Frank Miller, Walt Simonson set.
Yeah.
I've actually found a box of my Amazing Spider-Man, and I've put a bunch online. I sold 2 of them right away, Amazing Spider-Man 607 and 611. Both of them, well, one had a very good-looking black cat on it. The other one had Deadpool. So you can't go wrong with either of those 2. Here's where I kick myself. Because occasionally as I'm digging through boxes...
Can I kick you too?
Yeah, why not? I got a couple Omnibus to protect me. Here's where I missed out, because as I was digging through the stuff, I ran across Adventures of Kool-Aid Man number 6. Which entire run was probably the rarest of all of them, because around that time, well, actually probably before that, they switched from Marvel to Archie. And I looked at it and I thought, I'll put it back. Should have picked it up. In the meantime, I sold number 3 that I had. You remember Cory Savage Wolverine 1 through 5? Frank Cho did the art?
Yes.
Yep. And the last one, before I say, Cory, let's ask this short, mini quick ask short. How many issues of Big Boy comic were there?
Oh, I don't know. I know it lasted until, the 70s?
Actually, it lasted
Big Boy.
all the way up to 2000.
Really?
Last issue I just sold on eBay was issue 500. That was
because I know that Ditko drew for them for a long time.
There's a lot of ones you go through and like you run across different people and different things. But I had the last issue, had a Weird Al. Somebody grabbed it. It's not too late for you though. You could grab it. KRAYZ over on the eBays, and if you do win something, let me know, because I will grab something off my vast accumulation of crap, and I will include it as a freebie.
I have an Ask the Joe.
It's pretty catchy. Hang on a second. Let me talk. Ready.
All right. I, as I've said before, grew up where there were no Catholic people around. So there are a lot of things. So there are a lot of things about Catholicism I do not understand. So, Joe, today is February 28th, also known as Fat Tuesday. What the hell hell is the thing about pancakes on Fat Tuesday, on Mardi Gras? I don't understand why it's Pancake Day. Can you please to explain to the poor Methodist boy why Catholics have pancakes today?
Have you ever gone to Mardi Gras?
No.
I can't explain
I
it to you.
have watched.
Sorry, not the same. Go to Mardi Gras, and we'll revisit this subject in a future podcast.
Why does drinking yourself stupid and seeing women pop their tops for beads have anything to do with pancakes? Because heaven knows, I hope it's not a breast reference. Because I'm not a big fan of the pancake boobs.
See, and that's why you're going to hell.
Oh, there are a lot more reasons why I'm going to hell.
Right. Or unless you happen to be one of those guys who's in a religion where you don't have to believe in hell. Good for you.
Well, I don't believe in anything.
Well, I don't know. You believe in...
I take that back. There's two things I believe
in.
Festivus. Nope. I believe in freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Based on
how's that for
your advice, when I was at the source, I picked up a copy of Champions 1, 4, and 5. Now I have no idea where the hell 2 and 3 went. Somewhere in the vast accumulation of crap, I do believe the crap is fighting back, which is why I need you to help me by, hell, just send Cory. Well, I'll tell you what. Send me, like, a question to ask Cory. And you call it an Ask the Strode. And I will send you something from my vast accumulation of crap. Or if you don't need anything, I won't send it to you. But I do need questions because Cory is getting too smug for his own good. We need to take that pecker down a few pegs. So crazycomics@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's just what I need.
Send me
because over the last year that hasn't happened at
questions, and we are going to once and for all put Cory into place. It'll be wonderful. It'll be good, Cory. We'll smash Cory down. Fake Strode. Hashtag Fake Strode. There we go. All right. I'm just bitter because I can't find 2 and 3. It has nothing to do with you. Also, if those of you remember last week, I said I was going to have a daddy-daughter weekend while the BlizzardCon. I was going to be with my daughters, go to the con, visit some shops. There were a couple sales going on. One of the Barnes & Noble was doing a thing where whatever books you buy, if you mention it, my daughter's school, they'll give some money back, do some dinner, catch a movie. Well, Dana couldn't get off work, and Holly caught the flu, which Chris had the previous week. So now I am basically hiding in my room. Fortunately, I'm doing a podcast. I've been doing eBay all day. I've been playing Train Station. If you're on Facebook and you play Train Station, that's my latest thing. I know I played Castle Age and Simpsons Tapped Out, but Train Station's where it's at. So send me your stuff. So anyways, I'm just hiding from the flu because I really can't afford to get it. So, yeah. Cory, what are you freaking on? What's got you going? Bah, bah, bah!
Well, I'm not a chicken.
Well, I was more of a crow from Hee-Haw. I thought maybe that would help you since you kind of grew up in Hee-Haw country.
Yeah, I did.
Hee-Haw, hee-haw.
Before there was Saturday Night Live, there was Hee-Haw.
And you know what I'm freaking on is the fact that I swear the woman's boobage got smaller the closer to puberty I got. My dad attests to that, too. He said, yeah, I kind of figured you'd like these when you got older, but they kind of toned it down a bit.
How dare they? How dare they?
I'm so upset. I'm gonna send it to Cory. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Well, first I'm freaking that you looked at Minnie Pearl as kind of a sexual object.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. She was highly sought after. And little Luke.
Joe, remember?
Oof, that's a lot of women.
Remember 2 weeks ago when I said that work had sent me an email that they wouldn't be needing me as much anymore, and they immediately followed it up with, hey, can you work these shifts?
Hashtag fake email.
This week I am working 71 hours. No, let me take that back. 74 hours at the group home. I am sleeping there every night. I went in early on Monday night. And I realized, as I'm there Monday night, that I've come in early on Monday night for the past, 4 weeks. Somebody calls in sick Monday evening every week at the group home. Now, if I were an employer and somebody's always calling in sick on a Monday, the third time they did it, they wouldn't be employed anymore. But that's just me. But with these 74 hours, you don't sleep real well, and the last 2 nights I've actually had to wake up and deal with something for an hour each night. Yes, I have had to deal with residents at 2 in the morning getting into an argument over a boy. And it's not, he's my boyfriend. No, he's my boyfriend. Nope, that's not it, Joe. It's, he's your boyfriend. Oh, no, he's not. He's your boyfriend. I don't want him as my boyfriend. You need to go to the dance with him. Oh, no, you have to go to the dance with him. And then we have to take them into separate rooms and calm them down before they will go back to sleep. And I don't want to deal with it. I don't. I don't mind waking up to help someone go to the restroom. I don't mind waking up to help someone if they need medication. I don't mind waking up to help someone if they've kicked their blankets off and they don't quite have the skills to put them back on. Things like that. To deal with these junior high arguments, I'd rather sleep through them. And last night, during my evening shift, during the TV series Two Broke Girls, by the way, that show's been on for 6 years now, John?
I don't know.
I would think after 6 years, if they're still broke, they just have terrible money management skills. The argument started up again, and I sat down with the two of them at the kitchen table and said, I'm going to be very honest with you. I am tired of hearing about this. I am tired of it. I am tired of the soap opera, and you guys have this argument every night. So why don't one of you go and get ready for bed while the other one is out here, and then switch off, because you've had this argument and no one wins. So let's just not have the argument.
Maybe that's all they got left.
No, because then they had something new to complain about. Me.
Yes, you're a mean anti-arguer.
Yes. I have huge stacks of comics, much like huge tracts of land, and no time to read them.
And more omnibi. I hope you lay them in equal weight factors around the Strode compound, because you don't want yourself leaning to one side.
And the last thing I am freaking on is I've been listening to Howard Stern, and whack packers are dropping like flies. And, Joe, you know who the whack pack are. The whack pack are these oddball weirdos that are fans of the show, and then Howard kind of takes a shine to them, and we'll have them on and do weird stuff. Well, Nicole Bass passed away while they were on vacation, and they've been doing a week talking about Nicole Bass. I don't think she was worth a whole week. But the fact is, they're running out of whack packers.
Yeah, and just like
and
WWE,
it kind of makes you feel old.
He didn't create new whack packers. He just let the other ones go.
He's created 2 new whack packers in the last few years, and they were actually talking about, we may need to recruit some whack packers, or at the end of our contract, we won't have any left. But it does kind of make you feel old when you go, oh, wow, Crackhead Bob's dead, and Nicole Bass is dead, and Hank the Angry Dwarf is dead, and Joey Boots is dead, and High Pitch Eric is still alive. He'll outlive them all. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Well, I saw a couple movies since we talked last. The first one was Arrival. Have you seen this one, Cory?
No, I have heard about it. I have not seen it.
See it. It's brilliant. One of the big things in it is that they bring in it's basically kind of a first contact type story. And what happens is they bring in a linguistic, or I guess you call them linguist, which of course that's what my daughter Dana is working for. And really she's trying to get into grad school right now. And they deal with that as she's, making contact with the aliens, trying to figure out their language, which, this ain't no Star Trek here they're doing. They have no idea how to even start. And I don't really want to give away too much of the movie because half the fun was just watching it as it happens. But when it was over, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Just a lot of interesting things. My wife and I kind of didn't agree on the ending, and then we finally broke down and went on the interwebs and checked out the ending, and we're like, oh, wow, I guess that was interesting. So if you're looking for a good sci-fi movie, it's definitely worth checking out. It might still be in the theaters. We got it off of Redbox, so check that one out. Out of the vast accumulation of 50 centers, we pulled out the movie Milk with Sean Penn, Josh Brolin, and a few other people. Another just wildly crazy movie. I don't know how true to life it is, but if the real Harvey Milk was anything close to what Sean Penn portrayed him at, we really lost a good man here. The movie, of course, is about how Harvey Milk worked in I believe it was the 70s, working for gay rights. You'll swear by watching it that we're having the same goddamn arguments that we are now, and you would be right. But it's just a fantastic movie. Worth picking up. Like I said, I got it for 50 cents. I don't know where you'd find it now. You could probably find it cheap on eBay or maybe it's being on the Netflix or the Hulus or the Amazon somewhere. But so far, 2 movies. The best thing about these is I went in not knowing a lot about it. I mean, I knew Arrival was a movie that I wanted to catch because I'd seen it in an Entertainment Weekly. They gave it, I don't know what they do with the 4 or 5 stars or whatever. And I knew I probably wouldn't see it in the theater because I really don't see a lot of movies in the theater. But I did check it out. And then, of course, Milk, I knew about his life. I knew about how he died. And, of course, if you didn't know that, you'll figure it out in the first 2 minutes of the movie because they do an interesting thing with this is they intersperse not only the film stuff that they did, but they also take actual news archive and mix it in. So when you see things like the crowd that marched on City Hall, or you see Anita Bryant talking, or, again, in the beginning they say that he had been killed. So kind of an interesting way they put that together. So I definitely give a thumbs up on both these. If we can steal that, or should we say, I give it a Kray's approval.
Our review system is buy, borrow, or ignore.
Well, considering
and you bought it.
I bought Milk for 50 cents and we got Arrival out of the red box. And I would have loved to hang on to it and gotten the Blu-ray where they have all the extra fun stuff on. And I'll be real interested to see what Dana thinks about when she sees this, because again, she's a linguist, so she'll probably tell us like, that was bullshit or not. But then again, what's that science guy? He saw Mars, the one where we left a guy behind on Mars, and he said, well, the science isn't right, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah, the
Martian. And whoever was there, we could probably leave him there. I didn't talk about the graphic novels I picked up other than the Omnibus because I'm going to talk about them as I read them. The first one I read, I got this for a whopping 70% off, Impossible Man. And
I love that
It's
book.
not a complete Impossible Man, so I was a little bummed out about that because there were some things that they left out. They pretty much dealt with Impossible Man. I mean, his first appearance. And then the next time we see him is in, I think it was Fantastic Four 176. But they ignore the story before that where they tricked Galactus into eating the Poppet Planet and give him a big case of cosmic digestion. And they refer to a couple other ones. I think there's a Silver Surfer adventure that they didn't cover. But basically, this is Impossible Man as his Impossible Best. The jokes get better as the book goes on, and they kind of realize, you know what, we can just have a lot of fun with this character and just be silly as all hell. And I don't even know when the last time Impossible Man was around, but you think him and Deadpool would be a natural together. And I want a piece of the action if you do that, Marvel. Oh, hell, it's Disney. I can't mess with the mouse. So I enjoyed that. And I talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I lucked out at work. I got a new shift here coming, so we're going to have to shift the day we record this here podcast. Instead of recording it on the Monday, Tuesday, and giving Cory a luxurious week to edit it, we're going to have to, my new days off are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which is really cool because now when things come around like BlizzardCon or even MSP Comic-Con, I won't have to beg, borrow, steal to try to get a day off work. Because for some reason, most cons happen on Saturday. You know, there's a couple weekend shows here and there. But most of the time, events happen on weekends. If friends want to go out drinking Friday night, and I'm like, well, I can't because I got to work Saturday. And they kind of frown on you showing up wasted. So.
They do?
Well, at least the government work for now.
Oh, damn it.
But, Cory, you're going to have to pick a day to do this here podcast, and you're going to have a small window to try to correct it. On the plus side, we'll have better, if breaking news happens, we'll be on top of it, like Oprah on a baked ham.
If we break the news, you'll hear it first.
Yep. You'll have to fix it. Sorry. Cory, what are you geeking on?
I've got 10 omnibuses either in my house or coming.
Omnibused.
Omnibuses. I said when Marvel announced they were dumping them, it's like, well, that's a bad idea, but boy, I can't wait to get them. And some of them, like, you know, the Marvel 75th anniversary, when it was originally announced and when it came out, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not paying $100 because I've got, you know, it reprints pretty much the stuff you would think it would reprint. You know, there's no surprises there. I think the only one where you kind of go, oh, I didn't expect that, was the Pizza Dog story from Hawkeye. But for $30, over 1,000 pages, yeah, it's nice to have all of those stories on the really nice paper. It's got the death of Captain Marvel. It's got God Loves Man Kills with the X-Men. It's got the Galactus trilogy. It's got the death of Gwen Stacy. It's got the first issue of Captain America. I'm really loving the fact that, you know, I'm going to get all these omnibuses. Because they're a beautiful package. They're just a beautiful package. So looking forward to those all showing up over the next few weeks. They've announced some comics that I am so over the moon for. First, someone I've interviewed on the show is going to be doing a Kirby character.
Ooh!
Mike Allred will be doing a Bug series for the DC Young American line.
Cool.
And Bug is the character from the New Gods who just kind of showed up in an issue. Because Kirby would do that. If he didn't have an editor, it's like, oh, I like this character. I'm going to do a story about him. Well, it's in the middle of another series. Don't care.
Don't care.
That was one of the things Stan would do on Fantastic Four. It's like, whoa, Jack, slow down. Let's do a story with that character in a few issues. Let's kind of flesh out this character you've just given us. But when he didn't have an editor, it's like, nope, I thought of it. It's going in the book right now. Black Racer, here you go. Sunny Sumo, there you are. So I'm really excited about that. And then Dark Horse announced a comic, and there are so many ways they could go with it. They haven't released any details, but it's one where I want to go all the way up to Portland, Oregon, start knocking on the door and say, take my money
Are you
now.
done yet? Can I have it now?
Mystery Science Theater 3000, the comic.
Ooh.
Now, what I'm hoping they do is that they take old comics and have the characters making fun of them. rather than, oh, here's stories about Crow and all that. No, I want them making fun of old comics. So, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the comic. Also, Netflix announced that the new season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 will be dropping in April. So, I have already looked. I have that weekend off.
Cool.
I will not leave the house until I am done. Mystery Science Theater 3000 was one of my favorite TV series of all time. I am not one of the obsessives about it, but I know a lot about it. And every Thanksgiving, now they have the Turkey Marathon on Pluto TV, which is one of the online streaming things, and they record new stuff for it to kind of hype that the new series is coming. And I'm loving the fact that, all the old Mystery Science Theater 3000s, are all the ones that they can, they're putting them up online so you can stream them. We're getting a new series. I was very hurt when that series went away. I thought that it was still good, and when Sci-Fi canceled it, it was, you bastards, it can't cost that much. What the hell? Comic-wise, I am doing the Jonathan Hickman reread. I've made it through his run on the Ultimates, and now I'm into his stuff that he did on the Fantastic Four. First was the Dark Realm Fantastic Four miniseries he did. And this stuff is, it makes me feel old. The Dark Realm, this was when Norman Osborn was in charge of the Marvel Universe. Joe, do you realize that was 8 years ago?
You kidding? I had a crash when I realized the one action comic I thought was new was from 1985.
But I like that in the story afterward, one of the things about Civil War is that Reed acted so out of character that a number of writers afterward had to kind of go, yeah, we kind of need to fix this. Dwayne McDuffie did a great job of kind of papering over the character flaws. And then Jonathan Hickman, in his first 3-part story, kind of wrapped it all up and brought Reed back to who he was. It also got rid of one of the really dumb Mark Miller ideas, where there was a new Earth, NU Earth, where all of these people from the future emigrated back to our time and then built a new Earth to live on. Thankfully, Hickman got rid of that because it's one of those things where, no, I think that would change the Marvel Universe way too much to have 100,000 people from the future in the same solar system as the Earth. But what I like about it is its big ideas. And I actually have been having an online discussion with Dr. Vassalero, who does a lot of the introductions to the Atlas Masterworks. And I've known him online for years. And we're discussing the merits of the book. He did not like it at all. He felt that what Hickman did is he brought science fiction ideas that didn't fit in the Fantastic Four and kind of crowbarred the Fantastic Four in. Whereas I thought it was, no, it's going back to the idea that Stan and Jack had of they're explorers and all of these cool ideas are just kind of exploding out of everywhere.
Yeah, I think I would kind of agree with you on that.
But I can see where he's coming from because it was a very different storytelling style.
And you probably get a lot more out of it, like doing like you're doing, just starting it from the beginning and going to the end.
And knowing where it ends up with Secret War, when you're reading the Ultimates and they start talking about the problem with the multiverse, it's like he is sowing the seeds for that, and it's not going to pay off till 7-8 years later. And Hickman is very much a design-oriented person. If you've read the stuff he did at Image before he came to Marvel, he drew and wrote it, and he was very much into page design and book design and making sure that every part of the book told the story not with words or with pictures, but with how the panels and the pages were laid out. And one of the things I noticed with the Fantastic Four, because I know of his design thing, he has on the front page where it's, here's what's come before, here's your introduction to the characters. There's a 4, and at each of the points where the 4 touches the circle, there's Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben. And then between Reed and Sue are Franklin and Valeria. And I hadn't noticed before, it's, oh, yeah, because they're connected through the kids. Got it. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. It all starts to fit together. And you see the design stuff that he put in there that you may not have noticed. So I like it when a creator is very thoughtful, not just about putting together a story, but using the book itself to kind of set a tone and a mood. Most creators don't do that. Alan Moore was an expert at it. Grant Morrison does it, and Hickman does it as well. When Bendis was drawing his own stuff, he did that. He doesn't do it as much anymore because it's extra work. The new Master of Kung Fu Omnibus will be in my next box, which is good because I've now read the second Master of Kung Fu Omnibus, so now we're going to get the third. And later on this week is Joe and I talking about the next 10 issues of Master of Kung Fu. That's right, kids. Another episode of Series in Review.
Does that mean I got to read it?
You already read it. We already recorded.
Goes in. Oh, okay. I haven't even opened. I haven't even taken the plastic off my second volume.
No. This is the second 10
issues. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, you already.
I'm ready. I'm ready on to the 30th.
Well, maybe we'll record that when you're scheduled.
And you know, I'm a guy that likes to jump to the end because 2 of the issues I actually bought while I was at the con. I found a wonderful run of Master of Kung Fu, but I know eventually I have them in Omnibus. But I couldn't wait, so I picked up number 125, which has him walking away with his robe on the ground. For 10 years he has walked the way of the warrior. Now it has come to an end in this special double-sized collector item issue, which I found for $0.25. And then I got the very last issue. No, that was the last issue, 125. Yeah. And then I got the special double-sized 100th anniversary issue.
Oh, yeah. Issue 100 was amazing. Gene Day drew it, and Joe, just start flipping through that thing, and you'll just be blown away by his art. His art is unbelievably good in that issue. Yeah,
it's going to be good. I got, and I like doing that. I picked up a bunch of key anniversary issues just because, for what he's charging, 50 cents, $1, $2, that's good reading. Whether I have it or not, whether I'm going to sell it or keep it, it's decent reading. I mean, one of the books I picked up, which I didn't realize I already had, the Collegiate Hepcats for $2. I mean, that's good stuff.
I'm still irritated that he bailed on that.
Yeah.
He had signed a contract, and I don't remember who the publisher
was. Come back, Mr. Wagner. Finish Hepcats.
And, it was this big deal that, okay, we're going to reprint it, and while we're reprinting it, he's going to be drawing the issues that will end it. And then when they got near the end, it's like, yeah, he's not returning our calls. We can't get in touch with them. And then when issue 12 came out, they actually said, we were ready to continue this, but Martin Wagner has dropped off the face of the earth. He's not returning calls. He's not returning letters. We're sorry, but this is the end of the series.
That's too bad because during that time period, I remember I actually contacted him directly and bought books directly from him, because I like to do that when I had the shop. And like you said, once I paid the books, that was pretty much it. I never really heard from him again one way or the other. Of course, I pretty much had everything he had done up to that point, so I guess anything else was moot.
Well, and let's be honest, there are a lot of creators who kind of flake out. They become famous, or they don't become famous enough, or they don't get... They want to be in a certain place with their career, and when it doesn't happen, it's like, to hell with it, and they go get other jobs. Or, they have to pay the bills, so the art has to set aside, because, I can make more money working at a working in a retail environment, getting an office job, things like that. For the longest time, people were trying to find out where certain people from ECW had went. And it was, they got real jobs because they made more, working at Target or working in an office than they would make, as their character out on the indies over a weekend. So the real life gets in the way. The last thing I am geeking on, I talked a little while back about how over Christmas I splurged and bought myself an Xbox One.
Ooh.
And one of the things about the Xbox is if you've got the gold membership, they give you free games digitally because you're paying for this. Basically, it started as you had to pay in order to get the online service. And then eventually it's, okay, yep, you've got the online service, but everybody's offering an online service, so we're going to give you free games. I think it's like 3 Xbox One games and 2 Xbox games every month. And I didn't have an Xbox One, but I would click on, take the game because, eventually I'll have one. So by the time I bought myself an Xbox One, I fire it up, and I already had like 40 games. Well, one of the things that has happened is, me, I'm a bottom feeder, so I get a thing every day for, here's stuff that's on sale on the internet. Halo 5, which is normally a $60 game, Best Buy was selling it for $20 last week. Boom, buying that. I love Halo. Final Fantasy 15, which came out last fall, they ran a promotion where on a certain day in February you could get it for $35 rather than, again, $60. Boom, I'm getting that. That's 100 hours of gaming. I was able to get Return to Wolfenstein, which is the progression of 3D shooter games is there's Wolfenstein and then Doom and then Quake and Duke Nukem. Well, they've done a couple remakes of Doom. Now they've done a couple remakes of Wolfenstein. I love me my first-person shooters. If I ever get time off, Joe, I got all kinds of cool gaming to do. And tons of comics and DVDs and streaming and
Well, what's kind of cool about that is while you're off and working, I still got keys as I just help myself in there and maybe do a little cleaning and I'll play them their games while you're at work. So
you haven't done any cleaning yet, God damn it.
Well, it's not my turn. It's key number, 3,422.
If somebody did come in, I wouldn't even need them to do my dishes. I do my dishes. If you could just tidy up the living room and sweep the kitchen and
find a stash of potato chips.
Put the laundry away.
Oh, now you did it. No one's. Look at that. I got people emailing me to return their keys.
Believe it or not, kids, you've wasted an hour and a half of your life listening to us blather on about funny books. And as we say every week, we should put this on a T-shirt. The comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
The strength of this country isn't in the buildings of brick and steel. It's in the hearts of those who have sworn to fight for its freedom. Captain America. Hit my music.